Joining me now from Austin, the governor of Texas, Rick Perry. Governor, it is so good to have you here on America's Forum.
It's good to be with you, JD. Thank you, sir, and thanks for your service, for your many years of service.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm honored to be here with you. And as we get together to talk, news that the FBI has arrested an Ohio man who wanted to attack the U.S. Capitol, allegedly, saying he was inspired by ISIS. For your own part, you've spoken about the threat of ISIS operatives crossing our southern border with Mexico, a border that Texas shares along with the state I represented, Arizona. I'm wondering about border security and national security and your priorities for dealing with the border, sir.
I think that it is clear that our federal government has failed in one of their most important responsibilities, and that is to secure the border with Mexico in this case. And certainly there is very good intelligence that Mexico and that southern border with the United States has had one of the potentials to allow individuals to come into this country. That's a porous border, we know that, particularly the southern region of Texas and Mexico border. Some 55% of all the apprehensions that occurred last year were in that sector. I mean, 1,800-mile border, JD, that southern border. And that's the reason we've asked the President and Washington so often to do their duty, do their constitutional duty, send the resources, send the aviation assets, send the drones to defend and secure that border. It can be done. You put the boots on the ground, the technology in the air, use the strategic fencing in the metropolitan areas, and that border can be secured. And Americans will sleep better knowing that their federal government is actually doing
Governor, you mentioned the term constitutional, and of course the House of Representatives passed an amendment as part of Homeland Security funding to rescind any money going to President Obama's executive order for amnesty. Have you talked to members of the Texas delegation? Your reaction to that vote in the House of Representatives?
Well, I have, and I think it makes sense to send a clear message to the President that we want him to follow the Constitution. You know, I've given some advice to some of my friends in Congress that there's three things that I would visit respectfully with the President about. I'd put a bill on his desk opening up the XL pipeline, opening up our federal estate to get the people working and getting our country more energy secure. I'd have some corporate tax reforms that gave incentives to companies to continue to really look at expanding their manufacturing in the United States as these oil prices continue to go down and shale prices continue to push down the cost of electric power. There's no reason that America can't have a renaissance in the manufacturing side. And then obviously the third thing is border security. We have to have Washington doing its duty. But I tell people, I said, listen, if Washington's not going to do its duty to secure the Texas and Mexico border, Texas will. We're going to send the resources that we need, whether it's our law enforcement, whether it's our National Guard, to continue to send the message that Texas is going to do everything that it needs to do to keep its citizens safe. And in extension of that,
Governor,
keeping America
as you mentioned
safe.
Those priorities for your congressional delegation and the federal government sounded to me almost as if they could be presidential priorities. You've run for president once. There's speculation you're going to do it again. Where are you in the decision-making process for 2016 right now?
Well, JD, I don't shy away from the fact that I've been in a preparation mode, in a very deep preparation mode for the last 22, 23 months, and I'm going to continue to do that. Next week, I will hand over the reins of Texas to a very capable Greg Abbott as he and Dan Patrick take over as governor and lieutenant governor. I'm excited about the opportunities that I have in front of me, and we'll make a decision in May or June timetable about our future presidential aspirations.
And as you take a look at the springtime, in these interim months, if you will, do you continue the preparation, the study, talking to policy experts and gauging public opinion around the country?
Oh, indeed. We'll be, we're in Iowa next week, and I'm sure we'll be in New Hampshire and South Carolina a great deal over the course of the spring months. And, there may be some international travel in there as well, interspersed with substantial preparation and policy meetings.
And Governor, we're going to ask you to stay right there. We'll continue this conversation after the break. There's more with Rick Perry as we continue on America's Forum on this Thursday morning from Newsmax TV. You've had experience not only as governor of Texas, but as an Air Force pilot. You are a military veteran, so you understand the concept of national security. Our country at this point in time,
well,
our current commander-in-chief, how would you gauge his performance?
Well, certainly, if I was giving him a grade that you would see in one of our schools, I'm not sure it would be a passing grade. The president seems to be feckless when it comes to sending the message to our allies that we're going to be there with them, and that's the same message that our enemies, those that don't have America's best interest, are hearing from this administration as well. When you think about Libya, when you think about Benghazi, when you look at Egypt, when you see what we've done to Israel and the leadership's turning their back on one of our best allies in that region, when you see Syria, when you look at the Ukraine and the Crimea, and you look at the way that they're giving legitimacy to the Iranians, that is not a passing grade in anyone's
And in terms
estimation.
of roll call at school, to continue that analogy of letter grades, the president was absent from the unity rally following those attacks in Paris. Was it a mistake for the president not to be there?
Well, I think the message that was sent, when you see Merkel, when you see Netanyahu, when you see the other leaders of the NATO countries, and America to not be there, to America's leader to not be there, standing up and sending the clear message that Western values are going to be defended, Western values that the world needs to be strong about. And for him not to have been there, I think, was a huge mistake, not only politically. I think it was a huge mistake from the standpoint of sending a message to those in the Islamic terrorist world that we are going to stand together, we are going to defeat you, and the Western values that the world needs are going to be continue to be supported.
Governor Perry, it
and
is a
defended.
principle of military leadership, and certainly a president as commander-in-chief, the first thing is take care of your troops, the troops you command. We turn to veterans. You're a veteran. You take a look at what's happened with VA healthcare. What should be done to help our veterans returning from the battlefield, to help those veterans who depend on VA healthcare?
We made a promise to men and women that held up their hand and took the oath to defend this country, up to and including the loss of their lives. And we said that we were going to take care of them and we were going to take care of their families. And we have failed. The Veterans Administration debacle, if there's one connection here, if I might, when you talk about health care and the delivery of health care and a Washington-centric health care, you want to know whether or not nationalized health care works? Go ask a veteran, and they will tell you that by and large it doesn't. With that said, we have an opportunity with Bob McDonnell as the new Secretary of the Veterans Administration, an individual who I know he has the love of these men and women. He's an old West Pointer, 30 years of CEO, ended up as CEO of Procter & Gamble. If he's given the authority and the resources, I think he can get the VA headed in the right direction. But it's going to be a big project, and I will suggest to you a lot of the solutions dealing with the VA are to be to privatize, to allow those veterans to be able to get that health care at their local clinics rather than having to travel, in some cases, hundreds of miles to a
Governor,
Veterans
in
Administration
our closing
hospital.
minute, what is the greatest lesson you have learned about leadership that has served as a life lesson for you?
Well, the greatest lesson that I've learned is that you have to be very consequential, make decisions, to go forward, to analyze. But the most important thing that a leader, whether it's the President of the United States or whether it's the governor of a state, is choosing men and women who have the experience, who have the known background to go and perform well. I think if there's one thing that I would criticize this president on, is because he has put too many people into places that matter, that didn't have the experience of running things successfully prior to their going into
Governor Rick Perry,
service
we
for
are
our
so
country.
pleased that you've chosen to spend some time with us. We hope you'll come back again and visit us on Newsmax TV, especially if you reach that important decision to run for the presidency again in 2016.
JD, thank you, and hopefully we will have many opportunities to discuss
Looking
the
forward
issues
to it.
as
Thank
we go
you, sir.
forward. God bless you.
God bless you too, sir. Texas Governor and potential presidential candidate Rick Perry. We thank him for his time this morning, and we thank you for your time. We hope you'll stay with us as we visit with Newsmax White House correspondent John Gizzi. The view from Washington on this busy Thursday ahead on America's Forum.